Hello, everyone. I hope you are doing great today. Thank you for joining us. I'm Kevin Blanco, Senior Developer Relations Advocate here at Appsmith, and I'm thrilled to welcome you to this exciting collaboration event with our friends at Buildship. Before we dive into details, let me briefly introduce myself and Appsmith. As a senior developer advocate, my role is to connect with developers like you to understand your needs and work towards providing solutions that make your development journey smoother. And that's the reason why we're here. Now, Appsmith, on the other hand, is a low code front end application builder. It is designed to empower developers by simplifying the process of creating robust and scalable front end applications. Our goal is to enable you to focus on the application logic and the functionality rather than spending time on repetitive tasks. Now, on the other hand, I have with me Luis. He is from the Buildship team and he's going to explain what it is and exactly what it does. So, hey, Luis, how are you doing?
Hey Kevin, I'm doing great. Super excited to be here with you today. Hello everyone, I'm Luis. I'm a software engineer here at Buildship, and I focus primarily on building demos and templates to help people to showcase the various use cases of Buildship. So if anyone is unfamiliar with what Buildship is a low-code visual backend builder that allows you to build powerful yet scalable APIs, schedule tasks, backend cloud functions, webhooks, just about any backend logic you'll ever need. And you're going to be able to do all of this while harnessing the power of AI.
Nice. So it seems like it's like a perfect joint because Buildship is focused on the backend. You can create
Yeah.
your backend application in a low-code environment, and Appsmith, on the other hand, it focuses on the same thing but on the front end. So the idea is that today, Luis and myself, we're going to start from scratch. We don't have nothing. He's going to demo how to do things on Buildship platform, and then he's going to give me the API credentials and the API functionality, and we're going to go to the Appsmith portion and do pretty much the same. Create the application, connect to Buildship, and build a full application working on production all the way from zero to hero. So, Luis, I don't know if you want to kick things started in your site and explain the Buildship and go over that process.
Perfect. I'll share my screen now.
Great.
Share.
And while Luis is sharing his screen, I want to invite everyone to sign up for Appsmith. In case you have never heard about it, it's totally free. We have the community version. We also have the enterprise version, but you can build everything that I'm going to show you uh, by not paying anything, just creating your free account in Appsmith. So sign up today, and yeah, it's all yours, Luis, right now.
Perfect. Yeah. And just to add on what Kevin is saying, this is the Buildship website. It's free to get started as well. And everything that we will be building and showcasing today, we're going to create a template so that you guys can quickly get started doing the exact same stuff that we will be building today. But
Nice.
uh, yeah, okay. So before we start building our API, I just want to give a quick demo of what our ultimate goal will be. So here I have a REST client and I'm making a GET request to a Buildship workflow.
Sorry, Luis, could you zoom in a little bit on your screen so that way it's easier to read
Yeah,
for everyone? No worries.
yeah, let me know what is good enough.
There you go. That should be good. Yeah, thank you.
Yeah, okay. So let's see a demo of what we'll be building. So here I am in the REST API client and I'm making a GET request to a Buildship workflow. This is the URL. And we're passing in two query parameters here. So the first one is the prompt. This is going to be a description of a image we want to generate using AI. And then a title we're also passing. We're going to use this to generate an overlay image as well as an open graph image. So when we make this request, we're going to get about three fields in an object. The image will just be the raw image that we generate. So let's take a quick preview of this. Awesome. If we can take a look at the overlay image here, we expect to get an image with the title that we have specified here in the center. So let's just quickly preview this. You can see we do. And then lastly, we're going to get an OG image. So let's preview that as well. Beautiful. So this is what we're going to be building today. We're going to be building an API that will be able to generate images for articles.
Excellent. That's really nice.
Yeah. So let's get building. I'm going to head over to Buildship and I'm already logged in over here. And the first thing that I want to start doing is creating a brand new workflow. So I'll just click the plus icon here. And before we move any further, let's just name this. Give this a very descriptive name. So we're going to call this Appsmith image generation. Oops. Okay. Nice. So the first thing we'll need to do here is add a trigger. Now in Buildship, the entry point of any workflow will always be a trigger. As you can see here, we have various triggers that you can select, but we're just going to select the REST API call trigger for now because we want to create a publicly accessible API endpoint. So we'll select that trigger. Great. Let's configure this trigger now. The first thing we need to do is specify the path. So I'll set this to Appsmith image generate. The HTTP method, we can just leave it to get for now. Okay, so going back to our demo, we are expecting to receive two query parameters, prompt and title. Now there's various ways that you can extract these values from the request body in Buildship, but the way that I like to do it is by adding a get query param node. So let me just go back and show what I'm doing here. So here I'll add a new node. This brings up the nodes library. What I'll search for here is the get query param node. And I'll just add that node. So the first thing that we want to extract would be the prompt. So let's just add it here. And we want to mark it as required. Now, the next thing that we need to add here will be the title. So we're going to add the exact same node. Let's search for it again, get query param. And this time, the query key that we expect is title, and we'll mark it as required as well. Well, the thing is that we have two of the same exact node, so it's a little confusing. So what we can do is rename these nodes. To do this, we can just double click on the title here, and we're going to rename this one to get prompt, get prompt query param, and this one will be get title query param. Great. Now that we are extracting the query parameters from the incoming requests, we can now start generating our image using AI. We'll go to add a new node, and the way we want to do this is with stable diffusion. And we can run this model through our replicate integrations. So we'll head over to the replicate group. And from here, we'll select the stability AI image generation node. We'll add this node. The first thing we'll set here is the API key, right? So we'll select it by going to secrets, and we'll select our replicate API key. If you don't already have a replicate API key configured, you can just go here to secrets, add secret, and you can add your replicate API key here. And don't worry, because all of this is stored securely in the Google Secret Manager. Great. Now we need to pass in the input prompt. This is the description that we want to add so that Stable Diffusion will be able to generate our image. If you remember, we are passing that as the prompt, and we already added a get prompt query param above. So what we'll do is we will extract the value returned from this node. So for the input prompt, we'll go to variables. We'll go to get prompt query param, and we want to get the value from this query parameter. Now the other values, width and height, we can just leave as is. Great. So this will generate our raw image for us. And now the next thing that we want to do is we want to create our image overlay. So we have a node that can help us do that. We just have to search for add image overlay. Let's add this node. And the first thing that will pass here is the image URL. So of course, this is the image that we want to overlay the text on top of. So the image URL will come from our Stability AI image generation node. So I already know that this node returns a publicly accessible URL for the image, but if you're ever unsure what values a node return, you can just open the code panel, head over to the output section, and here you can see that this returns an object with a field called image URL, which is the generated image URL. So in our image overlay node, this is the value we want to use for image URL. So let's add it. We'll go to variables again, stability AI image generation, and we want to get the image URL. Great. Now we need to specify the alignment of the text overlay. So we want it to be in the dead center. So for the x-axis alignment, we'll select center, and for the y alignment, we'll select middle. Now for the text we want to overlay on top of the image. Again, we have this get title query param node that's extracting this value, and this is what we want to use for our overlay text. So we'll come here, we'll go to variables, get title query param, and we'll select the value. Beautiful. So up to this point, we are generating our raw image using AI. We're also generating our image overlay. And now, before we move on to generating our OG image, what we want to do is upload our image overlay to the default BuildShip storage. So in every BuildShip project comes with a storage bucket where you can manage all your files that are being uploaded by your various workflows. And you have an overview of each of these files by going to settings, storage tab, and this is where you have an overview of all the files you're currently uploaded to your BuildShip storage. So what we want to do, let's head back to our workflow. What we want to do is upload this image overlay to cloud storage. Again, we need to take a look at the output here to see what exactly it's returning. And we can see that it's returning an image in base64 format. So we have, if we go to the BuildShip's file storage group, we have a node that uploads base64 files. So we'll add this. And the base64 file that we want to upload is the value returned from the add image overlay node. So we'll select this. Again, go to variables, add image overlay. And now for the file name, let's think about this for a sec. We want to have unique file names for our image because we don't want to override previously uploaded files. So there's numerous ways that you can do this in BuildShip. For example, one way is by adding a UUID generator node to generate a unique identifier. But there's an easier way to do this. So what I'll do here for the file name is I'll pass it as an expression value. So here I'll select JavaScript. And what I want to do is use the JavaScript function date.now. So this will return the current time in terms of millisecond. And the last part here that we want to do is specify the extension. So we're going to concatenate that onto the unique identifier here. And this is going to be a .png. And this is how we're going to be generating unique file names for whatever images we upload to the BuildShip storage. Great. Now that we have generated our image overlay and we've uploaded it, we can now start generating our OG image or open graph image. So to do that, we'll bring up the node library again. And the way we're going to do this is by converting HTML to image. So we're going to define the layout and structure of our open graph image. in terms of HTML, and then we're going to be converting that to image. So let's see how we can do that. Here, I'll search for the HTML to image node. And the first input here is the HTML we want to convert to image. So I've already went ahead and created a basic HTML structure here that we want to use for our OG image. If you're not familiar with HTML or how to create HTML documents, don't worry, because we offer a generate with AI feature that you can use to create this HTML. You just need to describe the HTML that you want to generate, and hit generate, and the AI will generate it for you. But for now, if we take a look at our HTML document here, we have a 2-column layout. On the left side, we're going to display the image that we generated. And on the right side, we have a placeholder for a logo and the article title. If you notice that the source is empty as well as the title is empty, that's because we will be inserting these values in Buildship. So what I'll do is I'll copy this HTML structure, and over here in the HTML to image, I'll paste this value. So we'll come here again, we'll select JavaScript. Now we need to paste this in between these backticks. Whoops, let's go back. Okay. And we'll paste the HTML document here. Oh, okay. So let's expand this and let's find those sections that we need to insert the actual value. So first, with the image here, for the image URL, we want to use the raw image that we generated with our Stable Diffusion node. So here, how we can do this is we can just go to variables, we can find the Stable AI image generation node, and we want to get the image URL. And that's now set. Let's do the same for the title here. So we'll go to variables, and we'll select the value here from the get title query param node, and we'll select the value. Great. This is all we need in terms of the image generation functionality for our workflow. So far, we are generating the raw image using Stable Diffusion. We're generating our image overlay, and now we are generating our Open Graph image. But we still have a couple of things to do. The HTML to image node is actually writing the image to local file path. So we're going to want to upload this again to the Buildship storage for persistent storage, of course. So let's see how we're going to do that. So because this is a local file, we will be using a different node. We'll go to Buildship file storage, and we'll select the upload file node. Okay. So the destination here will be the location in the Buildship storage that we want to store this. Again, we will use the same pattern that we've been using for generating unique file names by using date.now along with the image extension. So we'll just copy this, and we'll use it for the destination here. So let's paste it. Oops. We'll select JavaScript and we'll paste that value. And the local file path will be the value returned from our HTML to image node. So we'll go to variables, HTML to image. And while we're still here, I just realized that I forgot to specify where we want the HTML image output to be stored for file path. So we want to do the same thing because we want it to be saved locally using a unique identifier. So let's select, whoops, let's paste that. Great. Okay, so we're almost completed here. Now we're generating our AI image, we're generating the overlay image and our OG image. Really, the last thing to do is to return all of these images back to the client. So let's see how we can do that. We will add a new node, and this time we want to add a return node. So this is how we can return values back to the client. Let's add this node, and the status code will be set to OK. The value we want to return will be an object containing all the images that we've generated. Let's see how we can do that. So we're going to come here. We're going to again select JavaScript because we want to return an object. And the first thing that we want to return here will be our original AI image. So we'll say image, and we'll get that value from our stability AI image generation node. We'll select the image URL. Next, we want to return our overlay image. So we'll say overlay, and this value we'll get from the upload base64 file node. And then lastly, we have our OG image. The value for this will come from our upload file node, and this is the download URL. And that's it. We are now ready to ship our workflow. So let's do that. Great. Our workflow has been successfully deployed and is now live. So I'll copy this endpoint URL, and before sharing this workflow with Kevin, I don't want to be reckless, and it's best for us to test that everything is working as expected.
Yeah, sure.
So we'll head over back to our REST client, and this time we'll replace this URL with the Appsmith image generate URL. We'll submit this request.
So that's great. So it's taking the prompt, it's generating the image, and then it's using the HTML template you give it, replacing the images to generate the OG image, and that's all happening in a matter of seconds and retrieving back the images back
Yeah,
to us, right?
yeah,
Nice.
precisely. And if we look at the output here, we can inspect that this is working correctly. So given my prompt that I sent in a request here, so let's take a look at this. A visually captivating and cinematic futuristic city. And the title that we expect to be overlaid on top of this image, as well as in the OG image, a future not too distant emerging from the advancements in technology. So let's see if this thing is actually working. Let's load our image. Well, it's safe to say that this is a futuristic image, a futuristic city, I mean. And let's take a look at the overlay image. So we expect the title to be overlaid in the center of this image. So let's see. As you can see, it's working. And the last thing to verify here is our Open Graph image. So let's preview this. Beautiful. It seems that everything is working properly. And this is how easy it is to create a complete backend end-to-end in Buildship low-code style. I'm now in a position where I'm ready to share this workflow with Kevin so that he can start working on the Appsmith integration.
Perfect. That's great. That was amazing. Less than 20 minutes, you have a full backend ready to start accepting requests. So yeah, I know you're gonna send me that. You can send me that maybe on Discord or the chat,
Yep,
whatever you desire. And while you do that, I can start sharing on my side and explain people about AppSmith.
awesome.
All right, so here I am at AppSmith, and I just created free account. I have my free account. And the first thing you will notice is on the left, we have workspaces. You can create as many workspaces as you want. A workspace is a mechanism to group applications. So, for example, if you have your marketing team and you have apps that power the marketing team, you can group them together because they share data sources. So, for example, you will see how we can connect to a Postgres database, or in this case, the Buildship API. So that's what we call a data source in Appsmith. And all of the data sources will be shared across applications in the same workspace. So that's something important to note. I just created a sample empty workspace called Buildship plus Appsmith, and I don't have any apps, so I will create a new application. So I click create, and then we have here the very empty canvas. On the left, we will have a separation of data and pages. So in data is where we connect our data sources, and on pages is where we create our UI based upon widgets. So here we have all of the widgets we can drag and drop into the canvas, which is here in the center, and that's how we create our pages. Also, we have templates. I know Wheelchip also has templates, so if you don't want to start from scratch, we have tons of templates that you can use, and you can basically, start from something already existing. So let's create our first data source. I actually have one already connected because I have this database here. It's a Postgres database. This is where I'm going to be storing my articles. Let's say I'm going to be creating a blog and I want to use Buildship API to generate the images automatically from the blog post that I'm creating, because maybe I'm not a designer, I don't know anything about creating images, and out of the box, what Luis just created is going to solve my problem by basically creating the images for me using generative AI. So this table is super simple. It just have the article ID, a title, a description, a category, the image URL, which is the one that BuildShip will generate, publication date, and the OG image, which again is the one that BuildShip generates. So at the end, all we care here is going to be title, description, and category. That's what we're going to be creating on Appsmith. So the way you create a new data source is you just create here the plus icon, and then you have all the different data sources that we support out of the box. You have REST API, GraphQLs, authenticated REST API. So for example, if you have JSON Web Token authentication or OAuth 2.0, etc., we support multiple authentication mechanisms. The same for GraphQL, you can have authenticated APIs. And then we have all of the other ones, which are plenty, Postgres, Mongo, MySQL, Redis, Elasticsearch, and all of the ones you're looking at right now in my screen. So since I created a Postgres, all I have to do is click Postgres, and it will ask me for the connection, the host address, the port, the database name, authentication, username and password, and that's it. I already entered my credentials here in this one, so I'm not going to be creating this one at all right now. I'm just going to be using this one called CMS that I already have. So when I go to my pages section, I can create my pages by dragging and dropping the components, the widgets. But there are other mechanisms which are even more simpler. And this one is generate page from data table. So what this does is going to analyze the different table fields that we have in our database and create a CRUD for us. So we don't have to create any CRUD from scratch. So it's going to ask me what type of data source I'm going to be using. So I already have my CMS Postgres database. It's going to ask me which table from that database I'm going to be using. I'm going to say the articles. And then by default, the search widget in Appsmith is going to be enabled on the table. So people can search by in this case, a name and a specific article. So I'm going to say that the title, I want to use the title field to search by an article. And that's it. When I click create, Appsmith generates a whole CRUD without having to create all of the queries myself, without having to create anything. As we can see, it's going to create a table. And in this table, we can click here. So the way Appsmith works is on the center, we have the canvas, like I explained. And whenever you click a component or a widget, you will see its properties on the right. So here, when I click on the table, on the right, I see the properties of this table. So as you can see, we already have all of the fields that we had in our database: the article ID, the title, the description, the category, the image URL, the publication date, and the OG image. I can modify some preferences on each of these fields. So, for example, the image URL, I don't want to show it as a plain text. I can show it as an actual image because it's an image URL, and it will display on the table as an image. The same thing with the OG image. I can pretty much do the same. I can go here and just change it as an image. And there you go. Also, here on the right, we have the edition form. So whenever you select something on the table, you will be able to edit that specific registry or record on the database using the form here on the right. So for example, we could change this title here to say something differently. You can change how things look. You can change pretty much everything. So here I'm going to say update, and I'm going to showcase not the article ID, but the title. So that way people know which article they are editing. And again, each field configuration, you can just click on the gear icon, change the property title, change the different validation fields that you have, change how it looks, change what happens on each of these events. So again, on the right, you have the property of each element you select on the center. Lastly, we have the creation form. When you click this plus icon, you will be able to create a new article. And here is where we want to insert the logic to call the API that Luis created for generating images. So the first thing is, by default, Appsmith is going to define a default value, but I don't want that to be the case in this particular scenario because I want the fields to be empty when you are creating a new article in this case. So I'm going to delete all of this. This comes built in the CRUD creation. So we're just going to clean this up a little bit. Publication date as well. And lastly, the OG image. Great. Also, I'm going to say that this module window, which is the model to create a new element, is going to create insert article. And then I want to have a auto hate because we're going to be adding more information here. So that's the way I want it to work. Let me zoom out a little bit. There you go. Um, Let me make this form here bigger. So here down below, I'm going to insert some buttons to create the image creation. Okay, so we have our CRUD. Let's give it a shot. Like, we can click deploy here, and this is going to deploy our application and make it available in this URL right here. And as you can see, yes, we have this article. We can click here on the plus icon, and it's going to show us the form creation functionality. Now let's go back to the editor and let's create a new query. Here you can see on the left the different queries that we have. You will see that it already created the query to insert a new article, to delete an article, to select an article, because it generated the whole CRUD for us. But let's create a new query. In this case, what I'm going to be doing is creating a new blank API. You could create a new query targeting the Postgres database, but in this case, I'm not targeting the Postgres database. I'm targeting an API, which is the Buildship API. And when you click that, you will see something very similar to to a Postman, which is an API builder. I'm gonna call this Buildship, and I'm going to grab the URL that Luis gave me here in the chat, which is the one he created before. And then we have the parameters. And I remember he said that we should have a title parameter. So let's do that here. Title. Let's put a value here. And we also should have a prompt. And I'm going to put here the prompt. Let me just make sure I'm setting up the right way. So what I'm doing here is I'm going to set up, just for the sake of testing, we will replace these values with the actual article title and the actual article prompt. But just for the sake of testing, to make sure that this works from Appsmith, I'm going to put something hard-coded. And lastly, I want to make sure that we have a larger timeout on the API request because, as you can tell, sometimes it might take a lot of time or some time because it's generating images on the fly. So let's increase the API timeout so we don't have any type of errors here. So that's it. I'm going to say that the title is Early Human Advances in AI and the Quest to AGI. And the prompt is going to be a film still of a robot, sci-fi, color, cool color grading, 70 millimeter, bouquet, cinematic, anamorphic, beautiful. So that's my prompt. That's what I wanted to generate. So I'm going to click run and the request is happening. So let's see if it's going to give us back the payload. And once this is done, all we have to do is replace this title here in the prompt with the values that the people are going to be entering in the form creation. So there you go. Let me see those images. There you go. That looks really cool. Let's see the OG image. Nice. Excellent. And lastly, the overlay. Perfect. It looks amazing. So it looks like we're ready to start changing this to the actual values from the form creation. So let's go back to our container here, and we will see that every component, every widget in Appsmith has an ID. And with that ID is how we reference those components in the different portions of Appsmith. So if you want to create, for example, a or pass a value to a query, in this case, for example, insert query, we will see that in this SQL statement that we have here, we use the double curly brackets insert form. That's the ID of the form. That form data, that title. So that's pretty much the same way you reference any component in any part of Appsmith. And we're going to do the same thing on the API. In this case, we're going to replace this and we're going to call it insert form that form data that title. Insert form that form data that title. Perfect. And the other one is going to be pretty much the same. Insert form that form data that description. So once we call this Buildship API, Appsmith is going to replace these values from the whatever people typed on the form creation and is going to call the API passing that information that we have here in the widgets. So as you can see, that's the name of the form, insert form right here. So now let's drag a button here. And this button, we're going to call it, this button right here, we're going to call it generate images. And this is the one we're going to call when we have our form here with some information. The other thing I'm going to do is I'm going to drag a image widget so we can preview the images. And this image we can reference pretty much the same way we did with the API, but in this case, we're going to reference it from the API into the UI. So the default value of this image is going to be BuildShip. That's the name we gave the API. I don't know if you remember, but it was BuildShip that data that image. So right now it has the image that we created manually. So that's cool. We are able to preview the image. Then we're going to preview the other image, which is the, let me make this bigger actually so it looks much nicer. And this one right here is going to be the one with the preview. So again, I just do BuildShip that data that overlay. And lastly, I'm going to bring another image down below. Gonna make this bigger for the one for the OG. Same thing, BuildShip that data that OG image. And there you go. Down below, we have the preview for that image. So what's going to happen or what we want to do is when we create sorry, when we call the generate image button, what's going to happen is take the information that we wrote on the description and title on the article creation form and use that as the prompt for our API, retrieve the values and show it that over there. So one thing we want to do here is on the insert form, I want to hide the image URL and the OG image because we're not going to be hard coding those values. We're just going to be creating the title, the description, and the category. Let me see if I can hit deploy here. Okay, so let's give it a shot and see if it works. Hopefully it is. Remember, we're doing this live. So let's say I want to build a recipe article creation. I want to create some food cooking recipes. And I'm going to say I want to create an Indian recipe, Indian cuisine for a perfect garam masala. And the description is going to be every Indian cuisine needs a perfect table dishes with a homemade garam masala. And the category is going to be Indian food. And in theory, if I click generate images, it's going to take the title and the description, go to Luis API and create that. Oh, I forgot the most important thing. And create the to connect the button to the actual function. Without that, it's not going to do anything. So we click the button, and here we have the on-click event. We're just going to click plus, and here we're going to define what's going to happen when we click the button. So we're going to execute a query. In this case, the query is the Buildship query. And we don't have to pass any parameters because we are grabbing the parameters from the actual form. So we don't have to pass anything. On success, I'm going to show a alert. And this alert is going to be a success alert, and it's going to say images created correctly. And I'm going to create also an on failure in case something goes wrong. Show an alert as well, and this alert is going to be an error. It's just going to say something went wrong. Okay, let's deploy again. Same thing. I'm gonna put the same thing I put it before. And now let's click generate images. So what that's doing right now is grabbing the title and the description, passing that as the prompt to Luis API on Buildship, and is going to retrieve back the images, and we're going to be able to preview those images here on the form. So let's see if it works and nothing goes wrong. And this is the reason why we put a large timeout, because sometimes it might take a lot of time. Looks like I didn't pass the information correctly. Let's take a look. Still loading, so let's wait, because if the button is still loading, it means that the API requests have not finished yet. So maybe this is the default response from the API when we pass nothing. So this is something we can tweak. There you go. Now it finished. Perfect. So there you go. It looks like it is actual a Indian garam masala image. An Indian garam masala is a great species for many dishes. So it is a great representation of what I want to showcase in this article, which is going to be about Indian food. It has all these species. It has the curry. It has all of the different things that are actually being used to create an Indian garam masala. So that's perfect. It's doing what we need to do. So now the last thing we have to do is grab that image that is generated by Buildship and actually pass that along to the database as a final step. So the way we do that is very simple. We're just going to go to the query the insert query. And in here, the insert query is passing the information back to SQL. So all we have to do is I'm going to remove publication date because the publication date is automatically happening on the database as the date of the request. And I'm going to replace this by the actual image from the API. So I'm going to say buildship.data.image, and the OG image is going to be the same, buildship.data.og image. Let's deploy that change. And I'm going to do something similar, but in this case, it's going to be with an Italian food. Italian recipe for a perfect tomato sauce. And I'm going to say every Italian cuisine needs a perfect table dishes with homemade tomato salad. Category is going to be Italian. And let's click on generate images. And once again, this is going to grab my title, my description, pass that along to Buildship API, and generate the images with generative AI, which is something for me mind blowing that we can do this type of things in less than 1 hour. Right now, we have been live for 45 minutes, and if we remove the 5 minutes we did for introductions, is a full application in just 40 minutes. That's insane. That's how they had advanced so far. So that's great. So there you go. Look at that. It looks really nice. An Italian recipe for a perfect tomato sauce. We have the tomato, we have the basil. It looks nice. It looks perfect. So now, when we click submit, in theory, it's going to store that into our database, and it's going to be using the image that we generated from the BuildShip app. And if we go back to our database here, in this case, I'm using a product called Neon, which is a cloud Postgres database service. We will see that indeed it's storing in the database the images that we generated from BuildShip. One last thing we can do is just to close up this thing very nicely. We can go back here to our canvas and we can drag and drop an image. Let's find for the image widget, and this image I'm going to make big. And I want this image to showcase the preview of my OG image once I select the article from the table. So in this case, all I have to do is call the table. I don't remember the name of the table. Let's just click the table. Data table. That's the idea of the table. So we have to do is data table, that selected row. So when somebody selects an article, that's the data we want to grab. And we're going to do OG title, OG image, sorry. So when we deploy this, so once I click on a article on the table, if we scroll down, we will see an actual preview in a much bigger size of the OG title of that article. So as you can see, we can use the data binding from Appsmith in any place. We can use it on a data source to bind data from a table, or we can use it on a button to reference data from a query. This is like a five-way data binding. You have data binding all across the different places in Appsmith. So there you go. That's all we had to do. In 40 minutes, we just built a content management system that is generating images on the fly with Buildship. And Luis, this is insane. I'm still lied about this.
Absolutely amazing. Yeah, this was fun. This was fun. This is the low code stack in full feature right here.
Exactly.
Amazing.
Local stacking full feature. That's the perfect title actually for this. So for everyone who's watching this or have watched this and keep watching along all the way, you learn a lot of things, and we're gonna make sure to share uh, on our different platforms. For example, on Appsmith, we will share the actual link for this template. So in case you just want to fork this template and just change the URL of your Buildship app, you can do that. And I know that Luis also have
Yeah.
forkable templates, so I know they will do the same on their end. So
Yep.
that way you can not spend 40 minutes, which is still very small portion of time, and just spend 5 minutes forking and replacing the the API keys here and there, and that should be it.
Yeah.
Luis, any closing words from your end?
I just wanted to say it was absolutely a fun time for me, Kevin,
Yeah.
to see the integration with Appsmith. I hope you guys saw the full power of the low code stack today, not only with Buildship, but also with Appsmith. The ability to build an entire application from start to finish in just under 1 hour is now possible. Absolutely amazing. Makes me
Yeah.
super excited.
It is. It was exciting. I mean, like you said, it is the perfect time to be alive and start building application that solves problem. Obviously, if you want to build something more like actual, you will have more tables on your database. But what you just have here is the perfect base for you to build something wonderful that actually solve business problems, and not and all in all without writing a lot of code. It's the perfect low code environment, and we just noticed it. Buildship and Appsmith is a perfect joint collaboration. We work together, and we cannot wait to see what you're going to build next.
Yeah,
So, thank you very much, Luis, for your time.
thank you.
Thank you very much, everyone who joined this live stream. And if you have questions, make sure to connect. I know that you can join in our community portal. You can find that in our website. Also, you can join our Discord channel. We're always there to answer your question. And Luis, where can people find or connect with you?
Yeah, just go to buildship.com. You'll find our Discord link there. And, we're always welcoming to new people who are interested in learning Buildship.
Excellent. So with that, I'm going to put an end to this. I hope you're excited as I am. And yeah, let us know what you build next. Luis,
Yeah,
have a great day ahead, and see you next one.
see you later.
Bye bye. Take care, and bye bye, everyone.